Welcome to Station, the Blue Jays series recap show. Following a bounce-back series win in Minnesota, the Jays welcomed the Milwaukee Brewers to the Rogers Center for a 3-game set. Could the Blue Jays come away with another series win? Stay tuned to find out more. Thank you for listening, and we hope that you enjoy. Station to Station, your Blue Jays series recap show. Rob, the righty from the pen, is in again for some relief work. Rob, we are reviewing the series against the Milwaukee Brewers, and we actually were able to attend one of the games.
Yeah, today's game, game 3 of the series, the rubber match, if you will. Great day for a ball game. During the day, you have a great weather. Roof was open. And just overall great day. Weather was great. And of course, they finish it with a win. So can't ask for more than that.
Well, I think we were really looking forward to this series following the Minnesota series on the weekend. To see how the Jays did, and I think they did pretty well for the most part. I didn't really see the base running errors that we've seen in the month of May. It seems like June has come and that has evaporated. So I think that's a good sign. But let's get into game one. But first, what we'll do is we will just talk about the Jays coming into this series. The Jays just finished off a 3-game series versus the Minnesota Twins, in which they won 2-1. Day off on Monday. So they kicked off this series on Tuesday versus the National League Central leading Milwaukee Brewers. They came into this series 28-26, and as we know, last in the AL East. There were no roster moves at all during this series, so the roster stayed the same. And our lineup for game one, the Jays trotted out in the powder blue uniforms, and right to left in the outfield, Witt, Varsho, and Springer. Infield around the horn, third to first, Chapman, Bo, Biggio, and Vladdy. Alejandro Kirk was our catcher, and our DH was Brandon Belt. Pitching matchup, Yusei Kikuchi versus Adrian Hauser. Kikuchi came into this game 5-2 and really looking to respond to some poor performances of late. All right, Kikuchi gets this game underway with his first pitch at 7:07 p.m. And this game wasted really no time becoming interesting, and with both teams scoring runs. Top of the first, we have a Milwaukee 2-run home run. So before the Jays even get to bat, they are down 2-0. But that didn't seem to bother the Jays as they stepped up to the plate and scored 4 runs of their own. That was through a Springer single. He then moved to second on a wild pitch. Bo grounds out. Vladdy hits an RBI single, which Springer scores on. Brandon Belt walks. Matt Chapman steps to the plate and cracks a RBI single, in which Vladdy scores on. And then Whit Merrifield has a 2 RBI double, which he hits right down the left field line, which scores Brandon Belt and Matt Chapman. And that inning quickly turns back in the Jays' favor, and it is now 4-2. Bottom of the second now, the Jays looking to add some more runs. And they do so through a Kirk single, a Biggio single. Springer reaches on a fielding error. The bases are now loaded, and Bo Bichette hits into an RBI fielder's choice. So he does make an out, but productive one at that. And Alejandro Kirk scores. Vladdy strikes out, and then Brandon Belt steps up to the plate and hits an RBI single, in which Biggio scores on. And that inning ends 6-2. There's another run for the Jays in the bottom of the third, where Biggio has an RBI single, and that's really the ball game. All of the runs were scored in the first 3 innings, and the Jays go out and win this game 7-2. Kikuchi does get replaced in the top of the sixth, though, and Kikuchi's pitching line: 5 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, 5 walks, and 4 strikeouts. Rob, a little bit of a response from Kikuchi in this one. Bit better performance from him.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to get coming a little bit back to a normal. I mean, he was on fire at the beginning of the season, so and I know he was tapering off for a bit, but it's good to see him. I mean, as a number 5 starter, hey, that's the most that you can ask for from your number 5. At least he's not. At least he's sticking in ball games longer than Manoah than 3-4 innings. Getting you into those extra innings and keeping the game under control and not letting it get away from him.
Yeah, I definitely felt that he had a course of speed wobble at the beginning of the game, giving up that home run, but he definitely seemed to get things under control and pitched reasonably well. I think as you touched on there, as good as you can expect from your number 5 starter.
Yeah, and you get a little bit nervous when he gives up the first, couple of runs. I believe that it was off a home run, I believe. Um,
Yes.
and so that always makes you a little bit nervous that that's how they start the game, and you think, oh, is this like vintage Kikuchi from last year? But settles down and yeah, comes out for the win. So yeah, good on him.
So the Jays take that first game of the series, and moving into game number 2, the Jays come out in their blue and white uniforms, and the lineup across the outfield, left to right: Varsho, Kiermaier, and Biggio in at right, Matt Chapman, Bo Bichette, Whit Merrifield, and Vladdy Guerrero in the infield. Alejandro Kirk was once again our catcher, and George Springer was our DH, with Kevin Biggio stepping in at right field there. Pitching matchup: Alek Manoah versus Julio Teheran. Alek Manoah gets this game underway at 7:08 p.m. with his first pitch, and he does get out of the first inning unscathed, but unfortunately he gives up his own 2-run home run in the top of the second. Abraham Toro takes him deep. Rob, it seems like a very
Yeah,
familiar circumstances for
circumstance. Yeah.
Manoah.
Yep. Something's definitely up with him. I mean, I've said it before, maybe it's the pressure. Maybe teams are just figuring him out. Maybe the pitch clock is getting to him, conditioning, but something's definitely going on, and something really needs to be done. They're gonna need to nip this in the bud pretty quick, whether it means sending him down, which I don't think they'll do because I don't think they really have any other option to bring a starter up. Um, and I've suggested maybe an opener, maybe get somebody in for the first inning or two. But it's a lot of pressure on a player to do something that they haven't done yet. So, or maybe he is injured. Fake injure the guy, give him some time. But again, when if you take him out, who fills that gap? So hopefully he'll figure it out sooner rather than later. Hopefully the Jays will figure it out sooner rather than later. But they need their quote unquote number 1 guy to get them some wins and get them innings too, because he's not lasting more than 4 innings, which is puts a strain on the bullpen. So that might be okay now, but as they go deeper into the season and potentially a playoff run, if you're going to have impacts on your bullpen, uh, you know, that's they're going to feel that impact towards the end of the season.
I do want to talk a little bit more about Manoah. He is actually taken out of the game in the top of the fifth, as you mentioned, and he's replaced by Trevor Richards. I'm just going to go over his stat line, and then I do want to touch on a conversation he had with John Schneider prior to this move. So Manoah's pitching line, I actually think not like given how he gave up that two run home run, probably not the worst because those are the only 2 runs he gave up. So he had 4 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts, and 1 home run, of course, given up. Uh, I don't know if you saw it, Rob, but Manoah had I wouldn't say it was a heated conversation. I would say it was,
Spirited.
it was a
Spirited.
spirited, but also like it was kind of a meaningful conversation between the two. He came up behind Schneider, and he was clearly and I should stop myself and preface this by saying this was at the basically this was in the bottom of the fourth inning. So the Jays are batting, and Manoah and John Snyder they're talking. Manoah is actually doing most of the talking to start, and he's clearly making his pitch that, hey boss, I should stay in this game. Now I you know I actually see I don't really see a problem in that, given that he only really gave up 2 runs off of one swing. But what I did like from this play is that the John Schneider, he tightened his leash a little bit. He said, I'm sure he gave him some nice words, but I think he also needed to say, listen, I'm gonna get you out of this game. You only gave up 2 runs. Yeah, you only pitched 4 innings, but don't worry about it. This isn't maybe a bad thing. Let's give the ball to Trevor Richards. He can give us a couple innings, and he's been pitching well this year. And maybe he can take this to the next start. I'm not going to get my hopes too high, but Alek Manoah right now, as we speak, leads the majors in walks.
Mhm.
He has the highest WHIP of a qualified pitcher in the majors.
Mhm.
His ERA is top 10. He's in the top 10 worst in the league. So, and I don't have the stat in front of me, but in pitches per inning, he is also number one in the league as well. So I think this is kind of pinpointing a little bit of his issues.
Yeah, and they can't. I mean, I think the trust is not there anymore. They've given him a chance. They've given him a lot of opportunities, and for whatever reason, he's not um, fulfilling the tasks that is placed in front, and they can't take those chances anymore. Like I said, if you're gonna blow out your bullpen, especially if you getting if you're losing control of that game in the second, third inning, and then you're asking a guy to get up sooner than he needs to, not warming up long enough, you're gonna cause an injury to them. So yeah, I think the trust factor is not there, and they're kind of gonna have a plan in place to say, look, maybe
Well,
Manoah just lasts, we know he's just going to go in for 3 or 4 innings, set the routines up, which I'm not saying is a good thing because you need your starter to go, over 5, 6 innings at least. So I think you hit the nail right on the head that the leash is getting a little bit tighter on him. The trust I don't think is there. Kind of do it in a gentle way though.
well, I think what they're gonna have to do is build him back up, right? So, you know, was this a I don't think this was the terrible outing that his prior outing was. His prior outing was very bad. So this is, yeah, he gives up a home run, which he's pretty much given up one of those each game. But I don't know if this is as terrible, and I think that's why he got the hook when he did, where he's like, "Hey,
Hmm.
boss, I want to go back out there," but John
Yeah,
Schneider has to
and
keep
all,
this game, in check too. And you know what? Do you really want this starter going back out, giving up another, maybe run or what have you, and then maybe his confidence is a little, a little shot as well. So maybe they're in maybe they're trying to build him back up.
yeah, that's possible. I mean, Um, you are gonna, you're gonna give them a chance. Every player is gonna want to stay in the game. Nobody's ever gonna be like, yeah, take me out. So no matter what they say, no matter how bad they're pitching, a player's never gonna want to be taken out of the game. But I think it's Schneider's is now saying, yeah, it's time to take innings, and like you said, you don't want the game to run away from them.
Yeah, and I think Dustin had touched on that both in our state of the season and I believe another episode where there are winnable games that just seem to get away from the Jays.
Hmm.
Now, I do want to go back through this game a little bit more. So that after that pitching change, and actually in the bottom of that inning, the bottom of the fifth, Whit Merrifield scores on a Kevin Kiermaier triple. So the game is now 2-1. So it's a run one. It is a one-run game. But the top of the seventh, Tim Meza comes on to replace Trevor Richards. And unfortunately, this was not a vintage Tim Meza relief appearance, as he gave up two runs of his own, and
Hmm.
that's where this game pretty much gets away from the Jays, and that inning ends 4-1. The Brewers score no more runs in this game. The Jays were able to get one run back, but they do lose 4-2. Winning pitcher is Julio Turan. Losing pitcher, unfortunately, is Alek Manoah. He is now 1-6 with a 5.46 ERA.
Yeah, I mean, disappointing loss. I mean, I didn't suspect they were going to get a sweep um, for this series anyway. So, I mean, typically you would when your ace is on the mound, they're going to win the game. But tough loss. Mesa, yeah, I got away from Mesa. Typically, you can trust him in a high leverage situation, but I mean, they're still athletes. Not every game is going to be perfect. So Mesa let this one slide, but I'll still give him a break because he's still somebody you want in there for a high leverage situation.
Well, and he's our only lefty. So,
And he's
you
your
know,
only lefty.
yeah. So I don't think binning Tim Meza is good for anyone. But yeah, it wasn't really a great performance, but that's going to happen, and not every pitcher is going to have their A stuff every
Absolutely.
game. And unfortunately, maybe he even thought he was making good pitches, but the Brewers, got bats on balls. So
Yep, and the
that's the way
Brewers they are a good
times.
team, so
All right, game 3 now. The Jays come into this game looking for the series win. Uh, Kevin Gosman is on the hill, and the Jays take the field with their powder blues. Rob, the choice of uniform is apparently
yeah.
the pitchers.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, people for all our listeners might be wondering, like, why do they wear the all gray or the all white or the white and blue or the powder blue? And it is the starting pitcher that decides the color or the uniform that they will be wearing for that game, which I thought was pretty interesting and fun little stat.
Before you told me this the other day, I actually didn't know this at all. Yeah, I don't know. Now it actually makes a lot of sense now, given that this series they wore powder blues twice, which doesn't really make a lot of sense when you think about it, given that their home uniform is technically the all whites, which actually didn't even, we didn't even see
Yeah, and
this.
I think Kikuchi's choice of uniform is the powder blue as well.
Seems
I
like it.
think he wants. I think he has mixed it up, but and I think Manoa's choice is the blue with the white,
Yes.
blue
Yeah.
blue top with white.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that the particular colors that the pitchers do like. You had said prior to the game, Gosman likes powder blues, and we showed up, and of course they were wearing powder blues. So you were 100% right on that.
Yeah, I mean, I still would like the Jays to change it up a little bit. I mean, I like the royal, or if you call it the royal blue. I wouldn't mind seeing royal blue pants, the Jays all in blue, and I
Mm,
wouldn't mind seeing Jays wearing their light blue jersey with white pants at home games, or even vice versa on an away game to do maybe a gray pant with a light blue top and just kind of mix it up. I mean, they have pretty much have the uniform there, right? What's the harm
hmm
of tossing something in? But I guess they haven't gotten that creative yet.
Well, I did say to you at the game today, I think the Jays have some of the best, like their caps, their uniforms. I think are all really on
Symbol,
point.
absolutely. Yep.
They're straightforward. I think the powder bringing the powder blue back as they did a few years ago. I think that's something that we all kind of remember from when we were younger than playing. And then you have the more modern, more up to date colors and whatnot. And I think it really their uniforms check all the boxes. I think.
Yeah. And they throw their red uniforms in too once in a while. So, Canada Day. I believe there's
hmm
Canada Baseball Day, and then I do remember when back a couple years ago when they would wear their reds. They were they were going to commit to wearing their reds every Sunday on a home game. And I don't think that lasted very long because I believe they lost every game that they wore that uniform on that day. So they changed it up and very superstitious. Maybe they just I don't want to go back to the Reds anymore. Because yeah, I don't know if their win-loss record is very successful when they wear red. But hey, still another option, nice option to have.
Well, and my understanding, along with the starting pitcher picking the uniforms, the only other time that the starting pitcher doesn't get to pick the uniforms is if there is a special uniform, Canada Day, I don't know, Memorial Day or
Right, when they
whatever.
gotta maybe wear the camel hats or
Yeah,
the Memorial Day, Independence Day, Canada Day hat. Yeah,
yeah,
you're
those are
right.
the only days that the starting pitcher doesn't get to decide, but otherwise, they do. So, all right, let's go into the lineup for this game. Across the outfield, left to right, Dalton Varsho, Kevin Kiermaier, and George Springer. Around the horn from third to first, Matt Chapman, Bo Bichette, Whit Merrifield, and Cavan Biggio. And our catcher is Tyler Heineman. DH for this one, Vladimir Guerrero. And our pitching matchup, Kevin Gosman versus Freddie Peralta. Gosman comes into this game 3-3 with a 3.03 ERA, a 1.13 WHIP. He gets the game underway at 1:08 p.m. And Rob, uh, we didn't get there for first pitch, but I'm glad we got there when we did. Otherwise, we would have missed all the scoring.
Yeah, I mean, they everything happened in the first inning. Exciting inning after that, other than Gosman pitching well. Kind of a slow game. So yeah, I guess we got lucky not missing all the scoring. Seeing as yeah, we did show up a little bit late. Uh, Makes the game a little bit slow, but it was actually a very quick game as well. I think it only lasted 2.5 hours, but that's what happens when you don't score any runs.
Top of the first, following that first pitch, the Brewers do not score. But in the bottom of the first, Bo Bichette steps up and hits a pretty much line drive home run to center field. It was a solo shot. Following that, Dalton Varsho hits a single. And then Matt Chapman hits a 2-run home run to the opposite field to right field, and that inning ends 3-0. There's no other scoring in this game until the ninth inning when the Brewers do get a run. But of note, in the top of the second, we had a Kevin Kiermaier diving catch, uh, basically in kind of right center field. He also had a sliding catch in the top of the fifth. But Rob, I think that catch in the top of the second was special.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can call him Superman 2. He's uh he's all over the place. I mean, the first game of the first or the home opener that I went to, I'm like, I really think this stadium is meant for Kevin Kiermaier. Um, he's, defensive. He's been great defensively. Great player. I think he's only with us for a year, so wonder if they look at signing him for another year or two after this year.
Well, if we're talking about players that are free agents this offseason, he's a player that I could see them signing. To be honest, he is actually playing. I think offensively he's doing better than he ever has at the plate, and defensively he's been his usual self. So we can have a look at the end of the season and see where we're at with this one. But
Hmm.
I think this is definitely one that getting him back. I guess retaining him I think will probably be an off-season priority of the Jays.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't want him to lose them like they did to Marcus Simeon. But again, if you're doing well and his free agent and he's up for free agency, then other teams are going to want him too, and another team might overpay for him, and he goes there. So
Well, and you're right. We can't control what the other teams do. We can only control what we offer them and
right,
how we value them. I think Matt Chapman is going to play the Marcus Simeon role this year. So even though Matt Chapman, of course, has been around the team for a few years, but I think he's going to play that role and
yeah,
get a nice big contract in the offseason.
yep.
All right, so Swanson pitches into the seventh inning, where he is then replaced by Eric Swanson. Uh, Gosman's pitching line: 6.2 innings pitched, 5 hits, 0 earned runs, 2 walks, and 11 strikeouts. Rob, at the game, I kind of said to you that I didn't think this was a vintage Gosman performance, but not obviously a bad one. Going through that stat line, I think he pitched quite well today.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just vintage Gosman. Gave up no runs. Yeah, I gave up a few hits, but hey, that's what happens, especially on a nice day. So I was happy with his performance. And I hope he keeps it up.
So top of the ninth now, Jordan Romano comes on to close out the game, and uh, Kevin Kiermaier attempts to make another diving catch. This one unsuccessfully, and Rowdy Tellez somehow ends up with a triple. So you could kind of put
Yeah.
together how that play ended up with, given that Rowdy Tellez ends up on third base. But that's really all the Brewers could muster in that inning, and Romano is able to close it out, get his 13th save. Our
And
winning
then,
pitcher
oh,
is
sorry,
Kevin.
I was just gonna say, like, as much as Kevin Kiermaier is great, sometimes I feel he does try to make those TV catches, that maybe extra dive or extra jump, to make it look good for the camera. I think in the last play that made Rowdy get his triple, he was going hard. I mean, commend him for that. But I kind of like seeing where the ball was going to hit. I'm like, I don't think anybody's going to really catch that. So maybe the smarter move would have been to just,
Play
not
it
go for the
off the wall.
catch and yeah, lay up on it, so to speak, play it, and maybe you just keep them to the single. Yeah, I don't even think you would get. I don't even think Rowdy would have gone to double if they would have just played behind it. Like you got to know who's hitting and their speed, right? So if he's not a fast runner, he probably wouldn't have even made it to second. So you would have had him kept him at a single, uh, which I mean, in the hindsight, the whole game wasn't affected by it. But to me, the only caveat for uh, Kevin Kiermaier is the TV catches.
Yeah, and he is a silky center fielder, so I think he is a bit of a smooth operator. And yes, I think does he watch his own highlights? That probably wouldn't surprise me, to be honest.
Has him saved on
You
his
know what?
phone.
To be honest, I would watch my own highlights, so
Yeah.
I would definitely do that. Anyway, winning pitcher Kevin Gosman, he's now 4-3 with a 2.76 ERA, so he was able to lower that a bit, and his WHIP is 1.12. Gosman looking real good. Our losing pitcher, the unfortunate Freddie Peralta, and as I mentioned, Romano gets his 13th save of the season. So the Jays take this series 2-1. They've now won back-to-back series. I think that is something to build on. And I think they're going to need it because they are headed now on the road to face the New York Mets at Citi Field. The Jays, Rob, are 30-27, fourth in the AL East. And in terms of National League teams so far this year, the Jays are 9-5. That goes back to the opener against the Cardinals. The Mets, interestingly, they are actually also 30-27. So I think this is going to be a very interesting series. The Mets, I don't think, have performed as well as they had hoped. Stop me when you've heard that one before. Fortunately, the Jays will not see Max Scherzer, but they will see Justin Verlander.
Yeah, I mean the Mets and the Jays are almost, mirror images of each other. Other than their where they are
Well,
in their own division.
other than their salary, like I don't, I think the Mets are the highest spending team in the majors, so a little bit different on that one. But
That's a good point, but both teams are expected to do extremely well this year and not really performing, I think, as well or as expected. Mets, I think they've had quite a few injuries, so I think players are starting to come back. Verlander, I know he missed, I think, at least the first month, so it'll be interesting to see him pitch. Mets, I mean, hey, if I was going to pick a New York team, I would probably go with the Mets. I'm definitely not a Yankees fan. So yeah, definitely an interesting series in New York. I'm gonna
are you
keep an eye
are
on
you
that one.
how are you predicting the Jays are going to fare in Queens on this weekend?
Um, hmm. I want to say they'll take 2 out of 3. Um, but seeing as they're in New York, they've got Verlander and Bassett, and then you're finishing off with Barrios and Kikuchi. So I'm gonna be the optimist, and I'm gonna say 2 out of 3.
Rob, let's talk about player of the past series. Do you have someone that you liked in this series?
I'll Whit Merrifield had a few hits, a walk, a couple of runs. But as we were talking, I'm gonna give a shout out to Kevin Biggio, not so much about his offense, but this series the guy played right field, second base, and first base. And I know everybody's giving him a hard time, but I mean he's not getting as much playing time, and I feel if he gets more playing time, I think we talked about that in the last time I was on. Um, but I mean playing those, 3 different positions, 3 different games, that says a lot about a player, right? So I'll give him an honorable mention, but I'll go with Whit Merrifield, Kevin Biggio, honorable mention.
Well, that's definitely what Biggio brings to the table, that versatility. And he did have 1 run, 3 hits, 2 RBIs, and a couple of walks in this series. Of course, in the past couple series, he hit a couple home runs. But yeah, I think he's definitely looking a bit better. Still not hitting above 200, but we'll see how June plays out with the additional playing time that he seems to be getting.
Yep.
My my player of the series, and he has not been a player of the series in quite some time, is Matt Chapman. I think he performed quite well in this series, and I think he is hopefully shaking off some serious struggles that he had in May. Chapman had 3 runs, 4 hits, 3 RBIs, 1 walk, and of course the opposite field home run today. So he would be my player of the series. and he is also hitting 289. So that's down significantly, but not too bad in the whole scale of things.
Good pick.
Trending better.
Yeah, good pick.
All right, Rob, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
You have been listening to Station to Station. We will be back on Monday to review the 3-game weekend series versus the New York Mets. If you enjoyed this episode, we ask that you share it with one friend that you think may as well. Thank you for listening, and until next time.